Welcome to Where Are They Now? I'm your host, Heather Lindstedt, class of 1985. I'm so excited today to be on the road filming with Paul Pedulla, artist from the class of 1973. Paul, thank you so much and welcome to Where Are They Now?
Heather, thanks for being here. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. This is fun. I have to first start off with that actually we can talk to somebody. We've been doing so many shows on Zoom. And I'm in your studio, so
yes.
Is it nice to have people like visiting again since the whole COVID thing?
It's great, especially without masks.
Yeah.
You know, it's like a whole different world again all of a sudden.
Good.
So let's hope it lasts.
Yeah, so this is one of our first shows. One, thank you again for having us. We don't go on the road very often. We're usually in the studio, but to see people and see faces and be here in Boston. So you're an artist now, but let's flash back to way back when you started growing up in Chelmsford and those kind of things. We're in a studio, but was art ever on your mind when you were in elementary school or even at the high school?
It's funny, when I was a kid, elementary school and up until junior high, I would draw all the time.
Yeah.
And even in class, when I probably shouldn't have been.
Yeah.
I actually remember being in the 8th grade, and which is now Parker Junior High. When I was there, it was Chelmsford Junior High. And I realized that art was no longer going to be mandatory. When I got into high school, I didn't have to take art anymore, and I was really sad about it. So I didn't, I forgot about it. I went to high school, I went to college, and I really never picked up anything to do with art until 2006.
Yeah, but you did do some of the clubs and stuff like that at high school. So you didn't really carry on. You didn't really join any art clubs or anything.
Not then.
No. It wasn't something that was really your. No. So what did you think?
I should have.
Yeah. So you fell away from it, but during high school, were there classes that were really interesting that changed your mind about following a different passion, or was there a certain teacher that kind of gave you your roots to where you were headed, or?
I guess I was mostly gravitating toward English classes in high school, and I ended up getting an English degree at Boston College, but art was never really on my mind to pursue in a career way.
Yeah.
And I don't really know why, because I woke up one day in 2005 or 2006 and said, I have to paint, and I really felt like a strong urge. But before that, no.
But if you weren't inspired by the story behind the art, do you think that maybe why you were with English, to write stories, to kind of reflect on things?
I've been a writer most of my adult life.
Yeah.
And mostly in the advertising world. So writing was always a big part of my life, even as a kid. Even I would write a lot as a kid. I always did really well in handing in papers and that sort of thing. But art was somewhere in the back of my mind, and I think I pursued it in the margins of my notebook more than anything else. When I wasn't interested in math, I would write, I would draw.
Now, I collect everything. Do you still have anything for any notebooks? I mean, I could still show you some of my work, and I graduated a long time ago too. I wasn't a drawer, but I still always kept notebooks. I have no idea. I guess I could call myself a pack rat. Have you ever looked back and found anything that I
haven't found anything really good.
Well, good, but anything that you were saying like, hey, this is probably where I should have known?
I think, I would get the inspiration to draw things, and I would never really keep them. They were in marginal notes for the most part.
Yeah.
And from growing up in Chelmsford too, at that time, in that time period, it was a construction boom. So houses were going up all around me, including the house I lived in, which we built. And I had to draw them because they were right in front of me.
Right. Now, is there any other artists in your family? Like, is it inspired by your parents at all? Was that anything, or brothers and sisters?
I come from a family of musicians.
Okay.
So my parents were musicians, and that's how they met. They had their own band up until, around the time my older brother and I were born. And then my father went into more of a corporate life, but they were musicians. That's where their passion was. And then my brother Tom, my older brother, he played clarinet and he played flute. He was the student conductor of the Harvard band. When he was in Chelmsford High School, he was in the band.
Yeah.
And my brother Pete was a rock and roller. And there was a lot of music in the house.
But you didn't have music.
I tried playing the saxophone.
Yeah.
And failed miserably. I think I was always a visual artist at heart, but it wasn't really something that was pushed in my family, so it was buried somewhere.
Do you think that was because you just said about your dad, like, hey, this would have been great, but he had to, start a family and pay the bills kind of thing?
Yeah, I think that's what happened with him.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think with me, there was probably a practical side of me too that felt that even though I had this strong interest in art, it may not be the thing to do as a career.
Yeah.
So that was all probably in the back of my mind somewhere.
Right. So flash forward then, that you went to Boston College, didn't draw there, anything like that. Was just kind of in the real world for a while.
Yeah. And then I got, when I graduated from Boston College, I had no idea what I wanted to do. I bounced around a little bit, and I ended up pounding the pavement for my first advertising job, maybe 3 or 4 years after I graduated from college. And that worked out really well. So I was an ad copywriter for many years.
Yeah.
It wasn't until, like I say, 2005 when I woke up one morning and said, I have to paint. And it was a very strong urge. So I went with it.
Were you surprised by the gusto in the way you went for it?
What surprised me was that I felt like I had to do it.
Yeah.
It was like a strong, it was coming from deep inside of me somewhere. It felt like it was almost coming from something bigger than me. And I signed up for some classes at a funky art school in Somerville. And
how did you find that?
I found them just kind of looking around and putting out feelers. School of Painting, it was called, by Catherine Martin Widmer, and she just ran these evening sessions that were kind of interesting, and I learned the basics. Before her, I didn't even know what to do with paint. I mean, I had no idea. Right. I didn't even paint when I was a kid.
So not even your room, a house, nothing?
Well, that kind of painting, yeah, but never, not in an art sense.
Right.
But
when you went to those classes, was it the art instructor that kind of inspired you, or was there anybody else in the class in your situation, or were they just doing it for recreation, whereas you were like, this is my next step?
I think it was more recreational for most of the people in the class. However, at the time, I figured it was recreational for me too.
Okay.
So I didn't really anticipate. I had no idea what was coming.
Right.
And it got much bigger than I ever would have believed.
And it's going to get bigger.
It seems to be.
But what about the art teacher? Did she see something, or you're a minimalist? I mean, your paintings are beautiful, but did that inspire you from a teacher? Were you ever at this art school, or was it just still a gut feeling of what you thought?
I think it came more from, I had artist friends who I liked very much. And the other thing is, I had started collecting art. So as a collector, I knew what I liked, and I always was looking for some simple kinds of things as opposed to something really detailed. And so I knew what I liked. And when my partner and I bought a place in Maine, which we still have, we had empty walls everywhere.
Okay.
And we were looking around for things to put up, and it finally dawned on me that, I was in this mode where I felt like I need to paint, and then at the same time, I thought, I can do the paintings for Maine.
Right.
So that ended up being my biggest, canvas was the place in Maine because I had all these empty walls.
When did you get the kind of the attaboy, this is something that's really going to be out there and people are going to enjoy it? Like, was there one painting that you did, or?
It was probably in 2007 when I had been painting for like a year and a half. And one of my artist friends encouraged me to apply for the jury program in the South End Open Studios in Boston. And I was nervous. I said, no, I can't do that. And he said, no, I think you should. And I said, all right, I will, and I'll do that. And I got in, and I had my own space, and I was surprised that when I started showing my work, a lot of people were interested in it. I was getting galleries coming to me, and I actually attracted press pretty early on.
Yeah.
So once the press started writing about me, I knew that this was going to be bigger than what I had first thought.
Really?
Yeah, and that was exciting.
Well, of course it was, because
Yeah.
it brought your passion, right?
Right.
It said this is really, and I think people don't realize it, and sometimes they don't. I guess you got a big jolt of, I got to do this, than most people. Is that how you felt?
It was,
and by the way, did you just say bye-bye to the real world?
No, the other thing is being a writer in the advertising
Yeah.
world, and I was freelance at that time. I
Yeah.
started painting too, so I didn't have a job to quit. But I enjoyed that work a lot. I
Yeah.
mean, I would write TV commercials. I would do websites, radio. Because I was independent, I was able to pick and choose the jobs I wanted. So it wasn't like the rest of my life was a drag either.
Right.
I was really enjoying that.
Yep.
And the painting was a great complement to it. It felt like they went hand in hand.
Right.
I didn't feel like I had to choose one or the other.
Right.
The gradual becoming really a full-time artist happened over the course of probably from 2007 it started until now, which is 2021, where I very rarely have an advertising assignment. If someone comes along with
Okay.
one that I really like, I'll take it. And I
Yeah.
have some clients who I really love and appreciate. And sometimes there's overlap. I mean, some of my best clients in California particularly, they have paintings in their houses too. So
Okay.
they have my own work in their houses. So it's been kind of a win-win.
Yeah. Did you get a lot of options to travel? I mean, because you're seen in different galleries, is there one area that's more, I don't know, artist friendly to Paul Pedulla? Like, is there an area, or is it just everywhere?
I think it's pretty much everywhere. I'm very fortunate in that I'm represented by 8 galleries now nationwide. I have never solicited a gallery, so they've all found me. And they found me for different reasons. Like the Texas Gallery wanted me for certain reasons. And,
Yeah.
I'm going to Chicago in a couple of weeks because Saugatuck Art Traders in Michigan represents me, and they are probably my #1 gallery now. And there's a lot of people there who want to meet me, and I can't wait to meet them too.
Yeah.
And Saugatuck is a beach town it's on Lake Michigan for Chicago people and Detroit people. So I'm really looking forward to getting there. Each area has its own appeal. And I think that because my work tends to be sort of half memory, half imagination, people can interpret it the way they wish. And, my cottages like these, they certainly look like Cape Cod, or they could look like Saugatuck, or California, or,
Right.
there's a lot of places they could, they're somewhat imaginary.
Talk to me about your inspiration from Worcester, though.
Worcester, oh, that's a great story. So,
And when was that? Fairly early in your...
It goes back to, let's see, Brian Goslow is the managing editor of Artscope magazine. he came into my studio at South End Open Studios, and when I was in juried space before I had my own studio. And he really liked my work. I had no idea who he was. And I was afraid to talk to him because he was so intense. He was looking at the work really seriously. I finally said, I'm Paul. I'm happy to talk to you. Or just feel free to continue to look at the work, and you don't have to talk to me, it's fine.
Yeah.
And he identified himself. And then I got nervous, and I thought, oh, I've been reading this magazine, and here this guy is in my studio. He really liked my work a lot. And before you knew it, he was writing about me. And a little story here and there, and a couple of years later, a feature story. So that was a real boost for me. When in the course of us getting to know each other, Brian and I, he is from Worcester. He lives in Worcester now as well. And he would take photos of things that he thought I would like. And one of them was these houses called Candy. He called them Candyland. It was a nickname he created. And I loved them. He sent me the photos, and I knew that one was going to end up being a painting. And so I painted it, and it ended up being a very popular painting. It sold, and then I started making prints of it, and now they're all
Everywhere.
over.
Yeah. Now, do you look at any painting, one particular one, and are there a lot of stories? And like, if I was to come into the gallery, and like a regular person, not interviewing you,
This place or
any,
like a gallery, any
yeah,
gallery.
would you be able to tell stories about your paintings, or is there really no story to it? Because you're a minimalist, so I'm kind of, looking at this, and I'm thinking, because I love the beach and those kind of things, so I have my own story as I look at it.
I think your story is very important. So my story is a good one,
Yeah.
but yours might be a better one.
Yeah.
I don't really know. So I think that it's really open to interpretation.
Right. Is that what kind of drives you though, with your work, or that it's open?
I think that when I finish a painting, I have this way of looking at it like I didn't even paint it.
Okay.
So I can just look at it like anyone else would.
Yeah.
And see things in it that maybe someone else sees, maybe someone doesn't. There are common things that most people see in my work. I'll have people that walk into my studio, and generally everyone will say, oh, I feel so calm. I feel so peaceful.
Okay.
Those are things I hear over and over again.
Right.
But, as far as the geography is concerned, I'm sort of an artist without a geography in a way.
Yeah.
Because it does have sort of a universal appeal.
Yeah. Do you think your art is part of your demeanor?
Yes, to an extent, I think it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's sort of, in a way, illustrates a lot about my personality.
Yeah. Do you have ideas all the time? Like, you know what I mean? Like, you had the gut feeling, I've got to draw. Mm-hmm. Do you have ideas that you want to put on the canvas a lot?
Sometimes.
Or is it, do you ever get like, I don't know what it's called, because I'm not an artist, but like a writer's block?
Artist block.
Oh, is it? It?
I haven't really experienced artist block. However,
is that real?
There are times when I know exactly what I'm going to paint when I go into the studio.
Okay.
And times when I don't have a clue what I'm going to paint. And those works will end up being different.
Yeah.
I'm really open to the moment in the work where I have no idea what I'm going to paint. And when I have a focus and I know exactly what I'm going to paint, it's a different process.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting. So technically you're saying that you can come away with two different artworks.
Yeah. I think that, if you have a mission, then it's going to look like what your mission is. If you don't have a mission, then you'll be just as surprised as anyone else when they see it, because you don't know what you're going to do.
So this, I mean, as you said, you had this feeling all probably forever that you needed to draw, you needed to paint, and those kind of things. Like, how did your family reflect on, like, oh my God, like, he really did have it, but it just took this long to come out? Or? I
think my family didn't know what to make of it.
Yeah.
Back in the early days, like 2007 and 8, I would take paintings home to my parents' house. They were still alive. They were still on Brentwood Road at the time, and didn't know what to say.
Yeah.
I had one, this was around 2007. I went on Christmas Eve to my parents' house, and I brought 2 or 3 paintings with me, and not one person in my family said a thing about them. Not
Really?
good, not bad,
Yeah.
nothing. It was like they weren't there.
Yeah.
After it was over, I put them back in my car, and my partner and I drove home, and I said, why did I do that? Why did I bring that work there? And it was kind of like a low point in a way.
Yeah.
Nothing against my family either.
Right.
They didn't know what to say or do. So I just went back home, and then the following weekend, New Year's Eve, we went to our place in Maine, and I already had a few pieces on the wall at that point. And we had some neighbors over, some Maine neighbors over, and one of them walked in. We had never had her over to my house before, and she said, I love your art. And my other neighbor said, well, you know they're Paul's. She said, you mean he's the artist? And and that was like, I was listening to this saying, oh, wow. And then I find out she owns a gallery.
Really?
I had no idea. In Columbus, Ohio, and I still show there now.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So,
That must have been like,
yeah. It was, the difference between Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve was so dramatic, I can't even tell you. She energized me so much that day that
so that's one of those people that kind of inspired
She
you.
really
like,
inspired
this is
me.
where it's, this,
she helped me price my work.
Yeah.
She was the biggest influence in my South End Open Studios debut.
yeah,
And I really got a lot of energy from that.
yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just incredible that you took your passion to this level.
Right.
And you still don't know where it's going.
The coincidences I can never quite get over. Like the
Okay.
fact that she was an art
Yeah.
gallerist.
Yep.
The fact that she liked my work even. I mean, there's so many coincidences that were involved in this. It was like, it just had to happen somehow.
But it was always there because how many
was always
how
there.
many classes did you really take at that little school?
6 months,
Yeah. 6 months into
once a week.
And yeah.
Yeah.
And doing all kinds of different work, right?
Yeah, different kinds of assignments. And
Yeah.
so I'm for the most part self-taught.
Yeah.
And I think that's attracted people too. There's a naivete about my work that people like. And when I started showing with the Tile Water Gallery in Barnstable in Provincetown, that was a dramatic experience because the guy found me in my own South End studio, right in this very room. And he said to me, you didn't go to school for this. I can tell you didn't go to school for this. I love what you're doing. You have to show in my gallery.
Wow.
And that's how that happened.
So what would you say? I mean, I'm always trying to tell everybody, young people and those kind of things, if you have a passion, like,
You have to follow your passion.
yeah.
I tell my artist friends this all the time too, because sometimes my artist friends will say, oh, I don't know if people are going to buy this. I'm going to paint what people want to buy. I said, no.
Right.
You need to paint what you have passion for, because what you have passion for will come out in that work, and that's what people are going to relate to. They're going to feel passion around the passion that is in your work, and you're not going to have passion in your work if you're painting with an ulterior motive.
Yeah. I could keep talking, and I don't really know that much about art, but I have to wrap this up. But I get to tell people now that I know you, right? Is that,
Yes, you
is that
do.
okay?
Of course.
That I'm a Chelsea alum, just like Paul Pedulla.
Yes,
is
you
that
are.
okay? So,
And we were practically neighbors.
and we were neighbors. I walked
Yeah.
through your yard and everything. So I want to thank you so much. I want to wish you the best. I'm going to keep following you because now I can tell everybody I know you. I love your work and it's terrific. So I just want to say thank you very much for being on Where Are They Now? And so you're certainly representing Chelmsford High in a way that even you didn't realize that
That's
you were
right.
going to someday represent Chelmsford High School.
That's right.
So
Heather, thank you
congratulations.
so much for coming.
Thank you.
I really appreciate it.
Yes. Thank you very much.